you. My name is Tony Marquez. I'm the board chair at VPP+Raise DC. It's great to see so many familiar faces out in the crowd today to announce our new brand, unveil our new logo, and have a robust discussion about the importance of collaboration in all of our work. For those less familiar with VPP+Raise DC, we're a philanthropic investment organization that's working to first build an equitable Greater Washington where young people can thrive. Second, we drive systems change through capacity building investments, cross-sector collaboration, and data analysis is always an important part of the work to improve the lives of children and their outcome of youth in our region. And we have been fortunate to partner with many of you out in the crowd today. And so that work leads to systems change that really helps the youth that we serve in the DMV, right? I started with VPP+Raise DC as, where Shirley's here, as the designated, there she is, designated VPP board member at the Latin American Youth Center. I stayed there for a number of years. I was the board chair, and then when I left, VPP put the squeeze on me. I came back 6 years ago to be a board member, and then last year I took on the role of board chair. Now I can tell you that over that time, I've been fortunate to see this organization's impact across the region. I've seen it grow, and I'm really proud to help to continue to support this very important work. As all of you may know, we've been going through an extensive rebranding, which is the reason most of you are here today besides the panel. And tonight we're really sort of excited to share that with you later. But before I call Carol up, our president and CEO, I wanted to first certainly thank the folks at Michael Marshall Design, and then they designed our new brand. I also want to thank the folks that were on the Refresh Task Force. It's kind of a weird name, but it's a group of board members and advisors, stakeholders, partners, VPP+Raise DC staff who really spearheaded the effort to move from the legacy VPP+Raise DC to the new logo that I still can't use the name. It's still embargoed for another couple of minutes. However, please turn your attention to the screen for a moment, just so that we can acknowledge and thank the folks that were on the Rebrand Refresh Task Force, many of whom are here tonight. I don't know how long I let that go through, but yes, thank you. It was a whole bunch of meetings where we went through a number of different iterations. And then so thank you all again, the folks that were over my right and left shoulder. And I hope that all of you are pleased as we are with the results of the rebranding and the new logo and everything that we've done. In addition to revealing our new brand tonight, I'm also extremely excited to hear from an amazing panel of experts and partners in our work. In any case, to kick off the evening, I'm pleased to introduce our president and CEO, probably the last time I'll say this, of VPP+Raise DC, Carol Thompson Cole.
That was strange when you said that, Tony, because that position, that name since 2007. So good evening, everyone. And I want to thank all of you for coming out for this very special occasion. Today, we hope not only to reflect on the great work we at Venture Philanthropy Partners+Raise DC and our partners have accomplished over the last 20 years, but more importantly, to launch a new and exciting path forward for the organization. As Tony mentioned, VPP+Raise DC has accomplished across our 3 priority issue areas: early childhood education, career and college readiness, and boys and young men of color. In the past year, we have launched our collaborative action networks across Washington, DC, and Fairfax County, leveraging the power of collective impact and cross-sector collaboration to drive systemic change for young people. And building on our long history of work in Northern Virginia, we have launched a partnership with Fairfax County Government to improve the lives of Fairfax residents most marginalized from opportunity by building capacity in anchor institutions and improving the county's child care system. Additionally, we are assisting in the design of a re-engagement center to connect older youth who have fallen out of educational and workforce systems to build pathways to economic opportunity and improving the lives of children of color, especially Black and Latino boys who face the most disparities in outcomes. In January, we launched Cohort 4 of our Ready for Work nonprofit capacity building program in Prince George's County in partnership with Fair Chance. Our Cohort 4 organizations include Because I Can, Artworks Now, and Leap to College Foundation, 3 amazing organizations serving Prince George's County children and youth. In early April, we hosted a visibility event with the Advancing Early Education Collaborative, American University, Trinity Washington University, Lift DC, Martha's Table, and the Urban Institute at Martha's Table to increase awareness for the collaborative and education opportunities at American and Trinity Washington Universities for early childhood education credentials. And most recently, in partnership with Education Forward DC and Bellwether, we released The Students Speak, a snapshot of youth well-being in the District of Columbia, a report as part of the District Student Wellbeing Data Project, which highlights survey results and baseline data from the first year of the critical effort to highlight and improve youth well-being across the district. And we hosted a data walk with Act for Alexandria and our evaluation partner, Child Trends, to share important data on student performance and well-being in Northern Virginia. It has already been a busy 2023, and we have so much more to look forward to this year. In addition to sharing what we've been up to, we wanted to bring you all together to share some exciting news. As many of you know, in 2020, Raise DC joined together with Venture Philanthropy Partners to combine capacity building, strategic assistance, and collective impact to create long-lasting systemic change for the young people and their families that call Greater Washington home. But we admit Venture Philanthropy Partners+Raise DC is a mouthful, and we wanted to be bold and clear about who we are and what we stand for. So for the past year, we have been working with Michael Marshall Design, a DC-based, Black-owned architecture and design firm, along with the Brand Refresh Task Force, made up of community members, board members, partners, and staff to create a new brand for our organization. We have so much we wish to accomplish, and we know that our vision to build a more equitable Greater Washington will require new, innovative, and bold ideas. Our new brand is a call to dream big and do big, collaborate deeply, and transform tirelessly. And now, after much anticipation, I'm extremely excited to present the next iteration of Venture Philanthropy Partners+Raise DC to all of you. So please turn to the monitors. Well, I hope you're as excited as we are. This has been a great journey, and we look forward to what we'll do more with all of us in this room. So at Youth Invest Partners, we know creating more just and equitable systems in the Greater Washington region is possible if we work together, create together, build together, because we can't thrive alone. We can only thrive together. Collaboration and partnership are embedded in the DNA and the foundation of our work throughout the region, and our new name and brand, Youth Invest Partners, emphasizes the importance of that approach. In electricity, an arc is defined as a band of sparks formed when electric discharge is conducted from one electrode to another. Our new logo is 3 arcs, each one representing a word in our new tagline: collaborate, innovate, and transform. 3 words you will see and hear a lot about this evening. Our new brand represents that spark, the spark that happens when we come together across jurisdictions and across sectors to move the needle for children and youth. The spark that is ignited in the limitless talent and potential of our young people in this region. That spark is our vision, an equitable Greater Washington where all young people thrive. As we usher in this new era and mission and vision for this work, our call remains the same: to leverage the power of investments and collective impact to catalyze the systems change young people in Greater Washington need to thrive in adulthood. We are excited to move forward on this new path in collaboration with all of you, our partners. So thank you for your continued support of our mission and our work. I would like to thank the board and advisors and the Brand Refresh Task Force for their work, input, and support throughout the process. A special thanks to Michael Marshall Design, who have been excellent collaborators with us through the process. And thank you to the entire Youth Invest Partners staff, and to Devin Simpson, our Communications Director, and Sarah Dover, Vice President of External Affairs, who have spearheaded this effort. We would not have gotten to this place without all of you, and I hope again that you're as proud as I am and our team of the end result. Before I transition into our panel, we are extremely excited to have 3 student speakers here with us tonight from the Mikva Challenge DC. Mikva Challenge was founded on the premise that youth voice and participation matter, and that our civic and political life will be stronger when youth participate and we help shape their own destinies. Mikva Challenge develops youth to be empowered, informed, and active citizens who will promote a just and equitable society. Every year, teachers around the country use the Mikva Project Soapbox curriculum to help their students develop and deliver a short speech answering the prompt, what is the biggest issue facing you today? Your community, why is it important, and what should be done about it? Today, you will get to hear from 2 students who made it to the main stage citywide project Soapbox Showcase hosted by Mikva Challenge in December. If you want to hear more speeches like this, join Mikva Challenge at their Soapbox Nation event at the Ford's Theater on Sunday, May 21st at 6 p.m. I am thrilled to introduce our first speaker, Ashton Stewart, who is a senior at Benjamin Banneker High School. Join me in welcoming Ashton.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashton on the sign. Today I'll be talking to you about the set of attitudes and ways of behaving that are expected of men, known as toxic masculinity. Growing up, most boys are told to be strong, violent, independent, and macho to fit the societal standard of a real man. However, Being a real man discourages men from exploring non-traditional hobbies, interests, and pursuits. It deprives them of a full range of expression, preventing them from being the best version of themselves. Toxic masculinity makes men unable to communicate their feelings, ask for help, or even be good fathers. So why is this a problem? Studies have found that toxic masculinity can contribute to mental health problems like depression and anxiety. Cultural norms worsen these conditions. They encourage men to just thug it out or man up when they need help. This leads to poor coping skills when it comes to handling stress or difficult emotions. Toxic masculinity not only negatively affects the men who believe in it, but the people around them as well. It tells boys that strength and aggression are key to solving their problems rather than communication, leading to issues like domestic abuse, gun violence, and sexual assault. A world without toxic masculinity would be a much better one, in my opinion. It will be a world where the mortality rate of young men isn't around 6 times higher than that of young women, where men aren't 3.5 times more likely to commit suicide than women, and where men aren't scared of being the primary parent in a relationship. We can make this imaginary world a reality by doing 3 things. First, learn to recognize it and call it out. Holding others accountable for their actions sends a clear message that toxic masculinity is not okay. Don't give people like Andrew Tate a platform to spread negative ideologies. Second, ask for help if you need it. Break the cycle of bottling up emotions. If you're struggling and need help, reach out to a therapist to talk or rant to a loved one. They will listen. And third, be vulnerable and be yourself. When you get home today, watch The Notebook and cry. Go tell your family and friends that you love them. Feel free to explore any activities or hobbies that don't conform to your gender stereotypes. Crochet a hat, bake a cake, get a mani-pedi, do anything. And finally, look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. Thank you.
Ashton, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Let's give him another round of applause. And with that, I'm extremely excited to transition to a discussion about the importance of collaboration, innovation, and transformation in creating a better future for the young people in our region. And we are thrilled to have several of our partners here that represent nonprofits, government, and other stakeholders in our work to lead the discussion. Please join me in welcoming Kilin Boardman-Schroyer, the Assistant Superintendent with the District's Office of State Superintendent of Education, Karla Bruce, Chief Equity Officer at Fairfax County Government, Kim Perry, the CEO of DC Action, and Lupi Quintero Grady, the CEO of the Latin American Youth Center, who has been a partner of Youth Invest Partners for many years. And now we'll turn over to Lupi.
Feel a little bit like I'm hanging and won't fall, but good to be here with everyone, delighted. And thank you so much, Carol, for the invitation. And I am just so honored to be amongst this great panel. As mentioned, I'm Lupi Quintero Grady, and I am the President and CEO of the Latin American Youth Center. What a great launch of youth being at the forefront and the branding. I say that because I'm a product of, I'll share a little bit about how important it's like investing, right? We can kind of hear the word, but I was introduced to the Latin American Youth Center at the age of 14. I would be the CEO. This will be 5 years in June. So everything is possible when you give young people opportunities. So I'm happy to be here and definitely have a lot of gratitude to the work that has been done. We were part of the first round of investments that happen. And that allowed us to build capacity in expanding to Maryland services. It was in 2005 where our families were actually moving out to Maryland, but actually still coming to programs in DC. So we were trying to understand what was happening there. And it was through the investment that we had that really helped us in that trajectory where, of course, that allows us to do work in both Prince George's and Montgomery County. Then we were part of other investment that happened that also supported us expanding our work and capacity around learning and evaluation, the data work that comes along that is also important. During almost 20 years ago, you started to see the trend where outcome measures were really important, and of course competition around like how do we do this work, how do we do this well, and making sure that that work is reflected in the work that we're doing, that we're measuring these outcomes, right? That we understand that. But the capacity issue is always one where not easy to fundraise for. So everybody here is nodding their head. So we're really grateful for being part of that investment. And just fast forward, right? Here we are in Maryland, Prince George's and Montgomery County. I kept wanting to say VPP, but that's no longer the case. Their investment was Youth Connect in Suitland. And it was creating a network of nonprofits that included Urban Alliance and Hillside and LAYC. This allows to bring the promoter pathway model that started in one school. As a result of that seed funding, we are now in 9 high schools in Prince George's County with the promoter pathway. So very grateful to this work. And the added value when pandemic hit, these same organizations continue to work and collaborate. We were able to partner strong with Prince George's Public Schools and work to re-engage 4,000 disconnected young people. LAYC alone had the caseload of 800 to try to connect with, using data with students that had already not been attending school due to the pandemic. So just want to thank you and can't thank enough. And now we get to jump into this wonderful panel, which we mentioned collaboration, of course. And of course, we can kind of go from here to there, anywhere we jump. This is going to be fun. What does collaboration mean to you, and why, from your perspective, is a necessary component to work? I mean, you've heard me speak a little bit about our work at LAYC and how important the partnerships are. And I don't ever think one organization is the answer. So let's see, you want to?
Sure, I'll start. Well, I want to also express my appreciation for being here and being able to celebrate the great work of Youth Invest. Oh, I don't have it here. VPP-Raise DC, formerly known as VPP-Raise DC. We've been a partner with them for many, many years. Actually, from the very beginning of Raise DC, we were really excited to be able to continue to work with them when they transitioned into VPP-Raise DC. And I work for the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, specifically in the post-secondary and career education division, which is a little bit different than a lot of the other divisions within OSSE, right? You think of OSSE, you think of a state education agency, you oftentimes think of, putting funding out there and doing a lot of compliance monitoring, making sure that people are doing everything that they're supposed to do. Our division actually is much closer to direct service. We have a lot of programs that we specifically support. We also fund a lot of programs that do great work in the adult education space, in higher education financial services, making sure that kids have opportunities to go to college if that is the path that they want to take, in the career and technical education space. But the work that we do can't be done without collaboration. We simply cannot do anything ourselves. Even the direct service programs that we run rely on partnerships with schools, partnerships with colleges, partnerships with, in the career and technical education space, with industry partners around work-based learning opportunities. There's nothing that we take on that can be done alone. We need to be able to work with others. And frankly, coming at the problem from the state education agency perspective, sometimes that collaboration is welcomed and we are seen as part of the solution. Other times that collaboration, people are a little wary of it. You know, schools might be a little bit wary about, like, wait a minute, if I actually engage with OSSI, are they going to use this as a way of trying to, like, impact our report card, or is this going to impact our monitoring? And so oftentimes, an organization like Raise DC, I'm failing at this. Can someone quickly, what is it?
Youth Connect.
Youth Invest Partners. I'm not getting invited back. Or working with an organization like Youth Invest Partners really allows us to bring people to a table which can feel like a much more neutral table. It can actually allow people to come and say, this is not necessarily an SCA-run initiative. This is an initiative that, yeah, OSSI is part of, but it's a shared initiative. It's an initiative that we're all coming to the table, and we're all coming to the table as equals so that we can figure out what piece do I bring to this puzzle that can help us actually figure out a way to support our youth in this city better. And that's absolutely essential. And frankly, you know, there's many programs that we run at OSSI, but one of the programs that I'm here gonna be talking about tonight is the DC Re-Engagement Center. And quite frankly, that would not even be a program if it weren't for, I'm gonna purposefully say Raise DC, because this was way back in the day, back in 2014 when Raise DC was first getting started. It was one of the very first wins that came out of Raise DC. There was so much attention being brought saying, wait a minute, we have a crisis of connection here in DC. At the time, we had almost 9,000 16 to 24-year-olds who were out of school, out of work, did not have a secondary credential. And the partners who are around the Disconnected Youth Change Network, from Raise DC's perspective, the partners who are around that table said, there's a lot that we can do individually, but there's no one trying to centrally convene any of this other than Raise DC. And we are seeing systemic challenges that can't be fixed by any one of us. It needs to have a collaborative solution. And coming out of that group, we launched the Re-Engagement Center, which has gone on to support the re-engagement of approximately 2,000 youth in DC. We've also been able to build out other work that's happening in the city. DCPS created their own re-engagement initiative based on the work that we did. We got an adult learner transit subsidy so that we knew that transportation is one of the challenges. All of these wins, all of these programs came from the table that was set and said, let's collectively talk about what our challenges are, and let's be honest, as our incredibly well-spoken student said, let's be vulnerable. Let's be willing to say what we can do well and what we can't do well sometimes. And that way we can actually have honest collaborative conversations to actually get to the problem-solving piece. So I'm grateful for the work that they've done. I'm grateful for the work that they will continue to do, and we will always be at the table. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Karla. Thank you.
Well, I will say thank you again for the invitation to be here. And I love the new name. I've been saying it in my mind, Youth Invest Partners, Youth Invest Partners. But collaborate, what's the definition? What do I think about when I think of collaborate? Well, I mean, one thing I think about collaboration is that's how you innovate and transform. And I know that the sort of literal definition of collaborate are individuals or entities coming together to achieve something, right? And I can say, coming from a government perspective, government wouldn't innovate or transform if we didn't do that in a collaborative way. Coming from the perspective of local government, I can say we often sort of sit in two spaces, either compliance or operations, and never sort of take a step up and take a look at or ask the question, how are we doing? And not so much how are we doing sort of organizationally, but are we achieving the outcomes that we need to achieve? And so our relationship with VPP, now Youth Invest Partners, has really, set tables, right? Encouraged us to assemble networks of people who can help us to answer these questions, to ask the question, number one, and to begin answering these questions. And your analogy of a puzzle is really important, because there are pieces that we hold and that we should put on the table, but there are clearly pieces that we don't have. And I think that without collaboration, we would have an incomplete puzzle. We wouldn't have the ability to fill those pieces. And every time I enter into a space with VPP, I meet somebody. I meet somebody that's doing work that can help me solve a problem. And so that ability to get outside of government, to connect across institutions, and also to connect regionally. Because the other thing that happens is we tend to stovepipe. We tend to think about DC, we tend to think about Maryland, and we tend to think about Virginia. And trust me, there are very unique contexts and situations in each of those jurisdictions, but we deal with children and families who cross those borders all the time, so we need to think about our work regionally. And the solutions are not always unique to our specific jurisdictions. And so ideas that we can learn, so the idea of a re-engagement center, we're borrowing that, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the partnership that we'll have and the collaboration that we have with VPP that'll enable us to bring that concept to Fairfax County, fully, embracing the idea that it wasn't our idea. We got that through relationship, through your relationship to the organization and through our relationship to the organization. So collaboration is how we do the work. And in Carol's earlier remarks, she was talking about, being an equitable region. And so when I think about our work in the county, and my job there is the chief equity officer, I think about my work as inside and outside work. So I do all the work inside for government to do the things to be equitable, but that's not what's going to make Fairfax County or any place equitable. What's going to make it equitable is the work that's happening on the outside and fitting together those puzzle pieces that really help us get to solutions and then get to outcomes.
And I would say, before I give it to Kim, I would echo what you're saying. When we expanded to Maryland, our families do not know the difference of the different jurisdictions. They're the needs that it's upon us to figure out the solutions.
Housing, they're seeking jobs.
It is housing, whatever it may be. And I know I see Maria in the room too, Mary Center, same thing. Our families could go, and that was our biggest challenge in trying to really respond to that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So, Kim.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to do a quick pause real quick. When I say youth invest, you say partners. Youth invest.
Partners.
Youth invest.
Partners.
That was pretty good. One more time. When I say youth invest, you say partners. Youth invest.
Partners.
Youth invest.
Partners.
See, there we got a little chant going. And now it's stuck in my head to say youth invest partners instead of the former. I'm so pleased to be with you. Thank you so much to the entire Youth Invest Partners team for the invitation this evening. And when I saw Lupi's name and our other panelists, I thought, absolutely, I want to be there and have this conversation with all of you. So I am with DC Action. I think I got a little bit of a promotion to CEO, but being executive director of DC Action is just one of the great pleasures in my life, and collaboration means absolutely everything to us. It matters to our business model, it matters to our advocacy work, and we could not do our work without the true meaning of collaboration. And we actually collaborate from the inside out. So just a few years ago, we did the ultimate collaboration, and we merged with the DC Alliance of Youth Advocates. DC Action for Children, founded over 30 years ago, had done an awful lot of work around healthcare, early childhood education, following our budget to make sure that the resources needed for children, youth, and families actually show up in the district's budget every year. And DC Alliance of Youth Advocates had done an extraordinary work starting in 2006 to give our young people a voice in the public policy making process. There is nothing more demeaning and I think dehumanizing to a young person than other people making decisions for them all the time without asking their opinion. And DCAYA did an extraordinary job of bringing young people to the table, making sure that their experiences really inform the public policy process, and so that they are part of that decision-making instead of decisions being made for and about them. We thought a few years ago that we could be an even stronger voice for young people in these very challenging times if we pooled together our expertise, our staffing, our resources, and our boards, and we did exactly that, and it was one of the best things we could have done. We created DC Action, another name, and it embodies a full scope of a child's life. I love what you were saying about it's easy to sort of break this work up into silos, but that's not how our families live their lives, in silos. And so our work really covers prenatal to age 24, 26, sometimes 30, depending on what we're working on. And our goal is really to make sure that the district is a place where every young person gets the opportunity to grow up safe, resilient, powerful, and heard. Heard. I just want to say that again. We are a typical public policy advocacy organization, but we're unique in a way that we're not a think tank at the 30,000 foot level. We are very much steeped in community, and so our research, our data, our policy development is all done with young people at the table, with families at the table, with educators at the table, with the community at the table. We have to be clear about what people want and need in their lives, and we are clear and understand that we don't have all the solutions, but families do. They know what they need, and it's our job to together craft policy that makes sense. The other way that collaboration matters for us and is really key and instrumental is in the way we drive our advocacy work. We can develop a policy solution with community, but we need people to drive it forward. We have to build power, we have to build influence and persuade lawmakers to adopt policies, again, that make sense for our young people. I'll give you an example. Just before the pandemic, we were working in collaboration with one of our coalitions. We, in addition to our policy work, we have the joy to facilitate 4 coalitions, a home visiting council focused on making sure every family gets off to a great start and a stable start, early childhood education, out of school time and after school time programs, making sure young people have resources beyond the classroom to learn and explore. And then finally looking at disconnected youth, whether they are homeless youth, youth who are disconnected from family or school and who need jobs and are interested in a healthy transition from school to adulthood. But just before the pandemic, our early childhood coalition, Under 3 DC, was really focused on getting funding for a new law that had passed, the Birth to 3 Act. And Birth to 3 does 3 things. It makes childcare more affordable in our city. It also provides fair wages for the workforce that take care of our young people every day. And it acknowledges there's trauma in the lives of our Black and brown youth, and they need mental health services. Teachers need mental health consultation, and families need home visiting services, a coach, somebody who's in your corner, helping direct you to resources so that you can get what your family needs. And at the start of the pandemic, the coalition was focused 100% on expanding childcare availability, which sounds like the right thing to do, right? But the pandemic hit, childcare, most education institutions closed down. Parents were afraid of their child's safety to bring them to an early education program. And through working with the early education community, it became very clear that while childcare affordability is important, what they really needed was funds to keep the doors open during the pandemic, to save the workforce they felt like was leaving. Many folks had to lay off staff. Staff left childcare to go work at Walmart and Amazon and other places that were paying even more money. It has been historically a challenge that our early educators are underpaid, unlike their public school counterparts. And they said, we have to do something about our workforce. We have to stabilize the workforce. And with that input, together, we pivoted in a major way. And pivot, of course, is the term of the entire pandemic. But we said, let's work on the workforce. And I believe that if it were not for the unfortunate circumstance of the pandemic, but allowing everybody to band together and work together, we were able to put forward and work with the DC Council and work with Mayor Bowser's administration, folks at OSSI, to pass a tax increase that would generate $75 million to pay early educators what they need, what they deserve. Early educators in our city, on average, were making about $35,000 when they enter the field, while public school educators enter the field making about $63,000. Right now, today, because of the efforts of so many people in this room and beyond, and this collective action advocacy work that I believe so deeply in, no educator in this city ever again will make minimum wage for such an important job. Our educators, because of collaboration, every educator will start their career, this important career that they love so much, making what our public school teachers make close to $75,000 with the new WTU contract. And so that already has said to teachers, we see you, we appreciate you, we listened to you, we worked with you, sat with you, and together we passed an important piece of legislation. We changed the law and a policy that will forever guide how early educators are paid in this city. That's one of many examples of what is possible when we all work together, when we respect each other, when we bring to the table the gifts and talents that we all have and put it together and do something for the greater good. So Lupi, collaboration, collaboration, collaboration.
I couldn't agree more. I want to make sure, checking on time, we got one more question that we will do, but I appreciate all your points, and I know for LEYC, our mission is to successfully help young people transition to adulthood, and that's loaded. But being able to create safe spaces, non-judgmental, and to be able to listen, of course, is critical to the work with our young people. The next question is, what do you believe are the pressing issues facing our children, our young people in our region? Can you share maybe one thing? Of course, very, very mindful of time, and I know there's a lot of issues, and I know one that I felt has been exacerbated by the pandemic has been mental health. That has been increased in the work that we've done, and it has not gone back to pre-pandemic as far as our data. We're seeing that doubled, and of course the challenges there with mental health providers. But let's start with, let's shake it up, Karla.
I don't know if I was quite ready for that, but okay. So I've gone back and forth, and I'm glad you said mental health. That means I don't have to say it, because I actually wanted to say something else, but I do think that's probably one of the biggest issues affecting youth today. Again, I'm going to take this from a systemic perspective, and there's a lot of issues. We can talk about gun violence, we can talk about education, but I want to sort of hold the microscope to us as adults in our systems and how our systems are working on behalf of youth. One of the things, and I know we're in the interest of time, but I got to tell a quick story. So the work of being the Chief Equity Officer is really grounded in a policy that our county's Board of Supervisors adopted back in 2017 called One Fairfax. And so I've worked in Fairfax County in September, it'll be 24 years. I've been Chief Equity Officer for 5 of those years. But in spaces around youth development, social services, and we have spent so many years focusing on people as if people are the problem. And in reality, we talk about systems and structures, but in reality, it's these environments that we're creating. You know, while on one hand, we were just talking about how Fairfax County has evolved so much over the years. What that's doing is it's really blocking some people from opportunity, right? So when you talk about skyrocketing housing prices and people, the widening racial wealth gap, what's affecting our youth really at the foundational level is this really deeply ingrained structural sort of, driver of this area's growth, right? And we celebrate the growth of this area, but the growth of this area hasn't been done in an inclusive way that has really thought about how all people are going to benefit and participate in it. And until we solve that problem, then we'll see issues of gun violence and mental health and, racial wealth gaps. And so I think that's the fundamental issue focusing, affecting our youth. We have to solve for the deeper problem. I think inherently youth want what's good, right? That's what they want. They are put into circumstances that put them on other paths. So I think as adults, we have to be willing to acknowledge that the problem isn't the youth. The problems are in the systems that we create and manage.
Thank you. Well said, and I think that Kim kind of touched on this too, and it's about really helping our young people, creating those spaces where they can become leaders and be equipped as well, so that I know they're eager, and you see that you could tell there's a difference in where they want things to be done now, and there's a reason. There's what we call impatient, but part of it is there's urgency, and I appreciate that, seeing that in a lot of our young people. Kilin, you can go next, and then we'll wrap it up with Kim.
Great. So I think that for us, we do a lot of work with a long-term vision in mind, right? We want to make sure that we are building out multiple pathways. We've for such a long time had a single pathway that has been very, very locked down tight, very hard to actually access, where college education is the only way for you to get to a family-sustaining career. And what's been really exciting recently is there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of willingness to talk about multiple pathways to get to actual family-sustaining, and there's more than one way for students, for youth to sort of see and envision their life going, right? And they can still have access to well-paying jobs and careers that are fulfilling and take care of them. But what I will also say, and I know I'm not really answering the question yet, I'll get there. What I would say is, while all of our work at OSSI is sort of working towards that, what we see time and time again is sort of the urgency of now and how much of it comes down to, sadly, financial resources, right? Like when you are living in a family that is struggling to make ends meet, when you're living in communities that have so much poverty that there's not the resources needed to simply meet the basic expectations that all of us would have for any of our own children. It costs money to make sure that we have the resources and the opportunities for our own children, and we need to make sure that we are acknowledging that that's the case for every child, and that's the case for every community and every family. And so we need to make sure, as we are looking at the barriers that we see of our youth who are coming in to the re-engagement center and the reasons that they have gotten knocked off the trajectory in the first place, so many of them circle back to simply resources, the ability to have stable housing, the ability to have childcare if they need it, the ability to have enough food so that they don't have to think about, wait a minute, I'm 16, but I need to figure out a way to have more money coming in from my parents to be able to put food on our plate. And that competing priority is leading me to actually say, I need to drop out of school now so that I can be part of the solution as opposed to just a drag on my family's plate, right? And so the reality is that so much of what we see could be solved if we could just figure out a way to get more resources and address sort of that underlying concentration of poverty and figuring out how we can get those resources in a way that will stabilize that family and allow every child to have the experience and the opportunity that they should have, which is focusing on that long-term vision that we all are working at OSSI for, right? How can they envision where they want to be and then have a pathway that will allow them to get there without having 50 different disruptions that many of us were fortunate enough never to have to even encounter. And so, again, bringing it back to collaboration, right? We can't do that. That's not what our role is.
Right.
And so we need to collaborate with partners to make sure that while we are working on that long-term vision, that we have the right partners around the table to stabilize the reality now, to address that urgency of now question, so that our students can actually do what their main job should be, which is investing in their long-term vision and their long-term career pathway. So I think that's the main issue that we see time and time again. Not the only issue, lots of other issues, but that is one of the ones that we tie so many of the issues back to that really we really need to tackle, and we need to do it as a whole city as opposed to one organization, because we're never going to get it done as one organization.
And I really appreciate what you mentioned. Prior to the vaccine coming out, we were very curious. We did a survey with about 757 youth families. We were trying to figure out how to focus to the basic needs. Could we transition from the services we were having to do that wasn't our normal infrastructure? That's where we learned that quite a bit of young people had left school because they were worried about actually supporting financially the family, and we weren't going to get those young people back. So I appreciate your insight to that. So Kim, bring us home.
Yes, and I'll be quick. There are two pieces, I think, to some of the most pressing issues. A couple, the first thing that comes to mind is on the system side, and that is really unpacking some of these systems that don't quite work for Black and brown families. Many of our systems are steeped in the exclusionary tactics and often racist tactics to exclude Black and brown families from wealth. And so I just think we have to pay so much more attention to those systems, work with community to just pick them apart and figure out what's not working, why, and what we can do to replace it, rebuild it, or start all over again and make sure that it really works. I want to give you one example, the work that Youth Invest Partners is doing on the early education side. As I mentioned, the focus has really been, how do we make sure we keep our educators? Part of that is by paying them what they are worth. The other side of it is taking a look at our childcare financial models, the actual model to do business. And guess what? Our childcare landscape is in a bit of crisis, and in some ways is built on quicksand. Those models don't work. Anybody in the childcare business will tell you they're not making Grand Theft Auto. They're barely sliding by. And so we need to figure out why. Many of our childcare businesses in this region are run by Black and brown women primarily, or people of color, and serving some of our very low-income children who need early education the most. And so it is really on all of us, talk about collaboration again, to really dissect what is not working and how we can work with government, private partners, academia, and so many others to make sure that we can unpack and rebuild our childcare system in a way that every child gets the early education that they need, and that the workers who dedicate their lives to it benefit as well, because they are raising their own families. The other piece that I think we really need to pay attention to is we're all riddled with, I think, worried and concerned about crime. We're concerned about public safety. We are concerned about youth-involved crime and public safety. And punitive measures aren't going to get us where we need to be. It isn't going to stem the tide. But if we flipped our budgets upside down and invested in prevention, invested in hope, which means an education for every child, after-school opportunities for them to learn and explore what they love, what they don't love, to meet new friends, rely on partners. Part of mental health is human connection. And jobs. So many of our young people say over and over and over again, we need jobs. We don't just need an internship for a couple of months. We are responsible for contributing to our families. And they want skills. They don't just want a job. They want to be able to get a job, keep a job, excel in that job, and even progress in that job, thinking about their futures. So I think we have to think differently about how we even budget in this city and make sure that our kids and our young people come first as a priority. So flipping a lot of our budgeting on its head.
Thank you, Kim. I think that's well said. You know, we always know, like, you can create a plan, but it has to, you're putting the priority, it should reflect the finance to that piece. So I appreciate that insight. So thank you to all of you. It's been great. I'm sure all of us are in this space, but it's been great hearing all the perspectives. I know I always appreciate the opportunity to be in this space. And so now we will have another treat and get to introduce the second Mikva Challenge student speaker, Danielle Bigby, who's the senior at Thurgood Marshall Academy. Please join us, Danielle, and welcome. And we will get all out of the stage. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Bigby, and I am a senior at Thurgood Marshall Academy. My soapbox speech, or my speech today, will be on poverty. Forgive me with the papers. These are new nails. Okay, so raise your hand if you've seen these donation ads asking you to donate money because there are starving kids in Africa. I was one of those kids, except it wasn't in Africa, but in my home country, Jamaica. Want to know what life was like as a poor person? Well, I have a story for you. Waking up on an empty stomach was the norm back then. And every day, we would eat the same bag of Excelsior's water crackers because it was the only option. It was the only thing we could afford. While most families have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I had the eat only when you were hungry mealtime. Want to know what I would eat then? The same damn bag of Excelsior's water crackers. And it's sad because I know youth of my age and younger are now living this lifestyle. I would shower in a river because we couldn't pay the $1,500 a month to keep the water on, but we risked our lives to steal electricity to keep our little kettle on because God forbid anyone got sick. What happens when we got sick? Be it Chick V, the flu, a cold, migraine, or a good old toothache, we always got the same thing. A big old cup of hot mint flavored water. You guessed it. We were just too damn poor to afford sugar. Now just imagine a half swollen face due to a small cavity, pulsing, agonizing pains that would bring even a grown man to tears. Imagine that being your child. A loved one, not being able to do anything because you were not in a financial situation to help. This should not be something a child should have to experience, but the land of opportunity. According to Census.gov, the official poverty rate in 2021 was 11.6%. With 37.9 million people in poverty, the child poverty rate for people under the age of 18 was 16.9 in 2021, 4.2% higher than the national rate. Let me repeat, The poverty rate of children is higher than the national rate by 4.2%. This means that there are more children out there who are reliving my past, and I'll tell you why. America's child poverty problem is persistent and structural, and in many ways, the official statistics undercount the severity of need across the nation. The official poverty measure, as calculated by the U.S. Census Bureau, has long been criticized as narrow and outdated. Narrow and outdated in large parts because it determines the resources a family needs based on a bare-bones food budget created in the 1960s. It does not take into account the major expenses such as housing or childcare, nor does it account for the geographical differences in cost of living. Because of this recognized failure in capturing the experience of people facing economic deprivation, poverty still persists now. It will affect the generations to come. I give props to the government for their many schemes we actually believed in, but at the same time, it's the disregard for economic growth and the need for using outdated articles and ways of governing and allowing it to affect its people for me. It's the dismissing of many homeless people from residing anywhere close to the White House or in tourist attraction spots to maintain the appearance of Washington being clean, and allowing it to a place where many people have equal opportunities. It's the creation of the picture-perfect mosaic of what life would be like in DC, all while trying to mask the tiny bits and pieces of lives ruined to create their work. If this was solved, I very much believe that the rate of crimes would lower, considering that many of these crimes committed involve the need or the use of money because of its scarcity in said community. This would also lower the average number of juveniles in detention centers and those who are incarcerated. One asset that our community has that would help address this problem is taxes, specifically tax filing. Because America's current policies do not guarantee a reasonable standard of living, a child's economic security is deeply intertwined with their caregiver's experience in the labor market. Changes in caregivers' work have largely driven changes to the child poverty rate over the past several decades. I believe that by using the information given from tax documents, lower income families should be provided with more resources instead of giving a republic approach of pulling yourself up by bootstraps when you can't afford bootstraps. Considering that more than 3/4 of every low-income family pays more than half of their income on rent, among this are other things we should do, such as securing the rights to basic needs for all families by strengthening food assistance programs, fully fund the Section 8 housing voucher program to reach all eligible families, ensure affordable health care for all children. The federal government must ensure that all children, no matter their household income, have access to comprehensive and affordable health care. Doing so would not only create better health outcomes and future opportunities for those children, but would also remove a financial burden for parents. Ease financial burdens and provide money to help families by expanding and strengthening unemployment insurances. Raise the minimum wage and eliminate sub-minimum wages for tipped and disabled workers. Expand and strengthen tax credits, child tax credits, and lastly, make sure structural changes to address generational poverty and marginalization. With this information, I urge you to take stand for your kids, their kids, and every generation after that. Contact your councilman, mayor, and congressmen. Create an ideology for yourself with thoughts of stopping generational poverty in mind. It starts now. Do not let more kids end up in the situation that I was in. Thank you.
So thank you, Danielle. We appreciate your realism. Also, I want to thank our panelists. I also want to introduce our last speaker for the evening, Shamaya Carnathan, a junior at School Without Walls. She serves as a Mikva Challenge citywide student voice council member. Join me in welcoming Shamaya, who will speak to our theme for the evening, collaboration, innovation, and transformation.
Hello, my name is Shamaya Carnathan, and I'm a junior at School Without Walls High School. I have been part of Mikva Challenge for about 3 years now as a member of the Girl Empowerment Program, the Student Voice Council, and the Elections and Action programs, which are all youth councils that bring together high school students from across the city to identify issues that we are currently facing in our schools and communities. By doing this, we co-create solutions to address those problems and advocate with decision makers. This year, I'm a Mikva youth leader at the Student Voice Council, which aims to address pressing issues throughout DC public high schools, like school violence, access to mental health resources, increasing student voice, and real-world learning opportunities. I first joined Mikva because I wanted to elevate my peers' voices. I go to School Without Walls, which is a very highly privileged school that receives a ton of opportunities and funding for the students. Unlike other students, they do not have the same opportunities as me because they go to a different school. That is the main reason why I joined Mikva, because I want all students to have the same and equal opportunities and funding across DC public high schools. It is very important to hear students' voices in their own schools and cities because their experiences help adults to identify problems that they are currently struggling with and address issues with innovative solutions from the experts that are experiencing those problems. It is especially important to hear a variety of different perspectives. That is what I am most proud of with Mikva and its work because of the collaboration between students and adults. Collaboration is the act of collaborating with others to achieve a common goal. Especially when working together, we generate new ideas to transform our city and create a better future for ourselves and future generations. That is exactly what we did for the Citywide Student Voice Council back in 2022, when we created a set of recommendations for issues that we advocated to be addressed by the DCPS Central Office. The 3 main issues that we addressed were mental health resources, real-world learning opportunities, and increasing student voice and satisfaction. We presented recommendations for the 3 main issues to several leaders at Central Office, and already some of our recommendations are being included, including funding for mental health reset rooms, many grants for passion projects so that students can experience opportunities, and starting student voice councils in schools to increase student inclusion and decision-making. This is the beauty of working together between adults and students in which we address issues that otherwise would not be addressed without students. This is why I'm excited about VPP's new direction and focus on innovation, collaboration, and transformation. This is what we get to do in Mikva Challenge Youth Councils and what more students are hungry to have an opportunity to do to help shape their schools, communities, and cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamaya, for those inspiring words. Before we go celebrate, the staff is coming around to pass around an envelope with a note card and pen inside for each of you. We want to hear from you what the words of today's theme, collaborate, innovate, transform, mean to you. So please take a moment to write on your cards. At the reception, there'll be a spot for you to post them. So on behalf of the staff and board of Youth Invest Partners, I want to say thank you again for joining us tonight and partnering with us in this work. I invite everyone to join us for great food, drinks, and conversation to celebrate the next era as Youth Invest Partners. So thank you all very much, and we'll be going into the back.